Fantastic to be here today. It's a Wednesday. It's Tour du Monde brought to you by OTR. It is Chamarel, Mauritius today in stage 4 and 43.2 kilometres of distance with 562 metres of climbing, as we're going to see in a minute on the route. Now, don't underestimate this route because look what happens. It goes straight up into the hills. So most of that climbing, as you can see, is in this first stage of the race as we wind up through the valleys there, go over the top and then drop down to the seashore. Now, it looks relatively flat along the seashore here, but of course you've got this little bump that it's just going over now before we go now Grand Rivière Noire, Tamarin. And it's a gradual climb here as it goes inland, and you expect the land to rise for that final drop through Xavier to Flic-en-Flac. Which is a brilliant name, isn't it? It sounds even funnier in English. Flick and Flack. But, well, in fact, on is in, isn't it? But Flick and Flack. There we are. We'll have some fun with that along the way. Now then, as you can see, on the beautiful island of Mauritius, and you'll notice a lot of the place names there were very French. It's one of those islands that historically changed hands between the British and the French. Ended up being British with a lot of the natives still speaking French. And they still do. I've spent a lot of my working life working with Mauritians, who are all very useful when you want something French translated. So, what have we got? Stage 4. Here's the leaderboard. Henrik Nard, Pedlars, and John Beans, both Pedlars. Pedlars in 1 or 2 up there. Casper Hederdum and Nick Giles from Pokermotion are the next on the list. The time gap's not massive here. We're only looking at 2 hours 50 for Henrik at the top. And we go all the way down to 20th place there, and it's only 5 minutes difference. So anything can happen. Gavash there, Keith Aitchison just above him, Neil Sundergaard, Kellis Vesper, John van der Wiel, and Joris Scheppers. Peter Buchwavel and John Summert from Pokermotion in 13th, Daniel Nurschberg from Germany in 12th, Moonriders, and Martin Brom just above him. Dorley Solly, Alistair McAlpine from Glasgow in 9th, just behind my mate Nick Greenhalgh. Jan Linden, another Pokermotion rider in 7th, so Nick Giles will be happy with that. Just behind James Melville. Now, James Melville and Alistair McAlpine, Glasgow United, always putting in great results despite only 2 in the team. General Shosh in 5th place, just behind Nick Giles, the main man at Pokermotion, it should be said. So some very important people here involved in this race. We have Nick Giles from Pokermotion, and of course James Ogleby from OTR, who are putting this superb event on as we go into number 4. Now there's only 25 seconds for the start, so hopefully they're all spinning away and getting heavily warmed up. I can see Wendy Wonderwheels Gallagher is in there for the ladies, and look at that for a turnout. We have 139 online. That is very, very good. And I believe a record was broken yesterday, 185 online. So fantastic stuff. Well done, James, for putting this on. So we get very excited. They're off. So here we are. I suspect this is going to be the usual sort of thing where it's going to be frantic to make sure we get in that first peloton as we leave. We can see Nick Greenhalgh. Now this is typical Nick. He goes steaming off the front. Of course, he's still got 42 kilometres to go, so that isn't going to stick. But I think it is one of those things where you put a bit of damage in, and bear in mind this big climb they've got coming up. So if you look along the profile at the bottom of your screens, you can see the big bubble there is Nick, and everybody else is the little bubble behind him. They're catching him up now. Look at the damage at the back. You can see it straight away. 117th breakall there. And remember there was 139 riders there, so there's another 20 behind him. Already people falling off the back. I see G. Jackson. Couldn't help but pick out that name. Gordon Jackson was an actor that younger people listening won't remember, but if you've ever had to sit through the film The Great Escape, he is of course the guy who pulls for the trick where the German wishes him good luck, and he says thank you very much in English and gets caught. He also used to be in a programme on British TV called The Professionals. Now then, let's say Nick's no longer at the front, and it's H. We Bicycle. I suspect that's not his real name. British rider, and he's out the front at the moment. It'll be interesting to try and assess the damage off the back. You can see there's a peloton, and then there's those people just dropping off the back. Very few of those, if any, will actually get back on this peloton. And we're still, if you look back down to the bottom of your screen, bottom left, you see where the bubbles are. You're already getting more of the little bubbles behind that main pack. Now we're on a green stretch. It starts getting a bit painful when we get to the red and orange and slightly yellow patches. That denotes gradient. Blue is descent, and as you can see, there's a lot of stiff climbing to come, as Ferrari is, well, in fact, in second place, because the German, sorry, the Belgian is at the front, not anymore. I say I think this will all be probing for the moment, and I think we'll get to Casper Heddenham takes a lead off the front, the Dane. As I say, I think we're looking probably another kilometre or so, probably a little bit more, just over a kilometre, and then we're going to hit that little red patch, and I think that's where we'll see things happen, as John Beams coming up behind, and Curtis Vesper there, Keith Aitchison, all in there, Keith from OTR, of course, the host club, putting this event on. So as I say, this is all a little bit of skirmishing at the front before the real action takes place. As the Norwegian Solly takes his turn on the front. I don't think he'll stay there very long. If he's got any sense, he'll save some of his powder for this big climb coming up. Now, of course, we have the Zoom room and some familiar faces in there. Daniel Lushberg, Nick Greenhouse. He hasn't got his new Ratio kit on. What's going on, Nick? It's anyway, Matthias Lundqvist from Sweden, Heinrich Mard, who leads the series, of course, Anders Janssen, and John Beams, who's on the phone. Look at that. He's probably working while riding, telling the boss he's in the office. Anyway, John Beams now off the phone and riding as normal as we get ever closer to the start of that climb. And as I say, this is, I think, where it's all going to get very, very interesting. Just trying to get, hazard a guess, I mean, there might be 60, 70 still in that peloton. As we look at John Beams' figures there, we've just seen him on the phone. He's probably phoning in his figures, saying, no, I'm doing more than that. Come on, come on. 250 odd watts, cadence of 87. Pretty decent stuff. But in the peloton, of course, as Verfey takes the lead for Belgium. He's just ahead of Newton, the Brit. Another Brit behind him. Not anymore. It's an Austrian, Niklas. All a little bit of taking it in turns on the front. And you can see another little clutch of people falling off the back of that peloton. It's 26 kph. We're on a gradient of 7, and just look at that peloton string out. This is doing damage. 7% to me when you're racing on here, it hurts, and it really does sort people out. As we see Nick Greenhouse not in a Ratio kit. That's the first time I've seen Nick not wearing a Ratio kit. Oh, has he got one of the? I think he's got one of the jerseys. That's right. I think this is the points jersey. I do beg your pardon. Yeah, he rides for Ratio Racing and wearing one of the jerseys for the competition. My fault. Heinrich Mark, the leader of the competition, stamping his authority on it at 7.6% gradient. We're about 2/5 of the way in for halfway up this first little bit, but it doesn't. Although it goes green after this first bit of orange, it doesn't really relent. You get this sort of lighter shade of yellowy orange just after the green, and then we get a really serious lump of red to go up. Mind you, Heinrich has pulled out 14-15 metres. Casper's Heddenham, he doesn't like that sort of thing. He will chase Matthias Lundqvist now 20 metres, more than 20 metres behind Casper's. So these two pulling out a gap. There is always a chance they work together. And don't forget, they can pull out quite a gap if they get over the crest of this long climb. And we've got 39 kilometres to go, so I'm sort of guessing that's somewhere around 16 kilometres before we get that big blue dip in the middle of your screen, maybe a bit more. If somebody could break away and make use of that descent, you never know, they might just hold it to the end. I think that would be quite a tactic. We have somebody else joined up at the front as well, so it might be a small little clutch, and that's the thing. I mean, if you could get a little gap, if you could get a little group together, it makes the break possible. As we see him, I'm going to say real racing, as if this isn't real racing. Of course, this is real racing. It just isn't outdoors, is it? That's the difference. So yeah, we've got the three of these at the front: Matthias Lundqvist, Mardy, and Heddenham. It's a bit of a Scandinavian group, isn't it? There, two Swedes and a Dane. So Northern Europe very much in dominant position here. As we see, they're on the little green section, so the gradient's down to about 2%. It does give the peloton a bit of a chance to catch up, and I think they're going to take that as they sort of narrow the gap. Although again, it's very strung out in the peloton. I think that's quite a small group. I think this is blitzed the peloton. If you look down at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen where they're going up that hill, you can just see the trail of little blobs after the big one. So, how do our riders in the Zoom room look? Daniel Nurschberg's giving nothing away. John Beam's very, very focused. Henrik Bard looks as cool as you like. Nick Greenhalgh, well, he looks like Nick Greenhalgh, doesn't he? He always looks like that. You can never tell. Anders Jonsson, again, looking comfortable. Hard to tell what Matthias Lundqvist is. Lundqvist is doing his head's slightly out of the camera shot, but he's certainly bobbing about like a good one. And I think, look, there's a lot of them getting out of the saddle here, and this is because the gradient's gone up again, isn't it? Look at this. As soon as that gradient goes up for those guys at the front, let's have a look. There's some gaps appearing there too, isn't there? So this, you can see the pressure. Let's see, Daniel Nurschberg was out the saddle. Lundqvist, who have we got here? Mard, Hedenham, and the Belgian Faye is there. Matthias Lundqvist here, 415 watts on 6.3% gradient. This is splitting the crowd. Let's say Henrik Mard, Lundqvist, and Hedenham, the Scandinavian bunch. They just dropped the Belgian, and this is where the there's a lot of there's a lot of know-how in this, that you attack at the top of a hill and you can really, a lot of people get to the top of the hill and they just pause that moment to get their breath back. If you attack there, you leave them. And they just did that on that flat bit, and they dropped the Belgian, who's now 30 metres behind, and then as soon as they hit sort of 3-4% again, he's back to climbing mode. Very, very skillful that. That has to be look and learn, watch and learn. Learn something from these educational documentaries brought to you by ZMS. So Vafay is now what? He's 20 metres behind. He might be just making a little bit of a catch up here. But look at that. There's nobody behind him for another 80, 90 metres. This group have got away. Army Vafay is he's the rider we're looking at, and if he's only 20 metres behind the other three, he gets out of the saddle, gives it that extra push. Go on, get on there. Go on there, Arnie. The gap behind him is now only 74 metres. John Beams here leading the charge, but John Beams is on his own, and there's another 30 back to the gap. So maybe John Beams can bridge that gap, which would be quite amazing. All the rest sit in a bunch. Keith Acheson there with his Spanish flag. He's a Brit who lives in Spain. John Sammett, Poker Motion, the man from Staffordshire. Mark Rowbottom we see in there too. And Snoga for... this is quite a small bunch now, isn't it, compared to what we had before. Although again, there's another little clutch behind them. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because we don't know whether whether that group behind is being dropped or they can work together and catch up. My feeling is that if that third group can, so we're looking at the second group now, I think if that third group can stay that size, it has a chance of catching this group. Again, heavily populated by Scandinavians we see there. This is the class, isn't it? Look, 24. So that means there's 23 riders up in the earlier group, but look at the gap. Can they bridge that or not? It's not. It's tantalisingly close, isn't they? Peter Brookwavel is just going to be snapped up by Group 2. But this isn't always a bad thing, because the bigger the group gets, the easier it is to work. So certainly if you get dropped in one of these races and you know those groups behind, you're much better just sitting up and letting the group catch you and getting in it and using that draft. So we have a very split up pack now. This is evolving into races within the race, and that's not a bad thing. It's something I approve of. It's the way my own races, the West London VR series, are designed. That I want you to end up in a group of peers, so you can have your own little private race between you further back, and that's exactly what's happening on this wonderful course in Mauritius, brought to you by OTR and Tour de Monde at stage 4. And what a great series it's been, great turnouts. Well done to everybody at RGT, at ZMS and OTR, of course. Well done, James. So let's have a look what we've got. We are now, certainly for the leaders, getting towards the end of that orange section on the climb. I mean, the climb's still got a way to go. There is another orange section, but the worst of it's over. And we do have this little clutch of riders who got away, and just the 3 of them. I'm afraid Belgium didn't make the bridge. He's back in the next pack. So we've got the 3 out the front. Scott David Money. Go Shane and Paul. Yes, go Shane and Paul. Shane and Paul. I hope you're able to hear the message or even read it on screen. But thanks for joining in on Facebook. If you're watching, you can post on Facebook. It'll come up on screen, and I will endeavour to read them out as I can. So this little group of 3, the Scandinavians. This is quite an achievement. 90 odd metres back to John Beams, who's leading the next group, and remember there's about 20 in the next group, and they are a mere 20 odd metres in front of the group behind them. Can the catches be made? I think the downhill might have a say in the answer to that question. We've seen quite a few races. In fact, the last week's Westerly VR one was a downhill. Juris Versli from OTR, the Slovenian here, is in 5th place and just putting a little bit of a charge out the front. We've seen a few do this and not make the bridge, but look at the effect behind. There's no longer a bunch. It gets all strung out by these little teases off the front. It does damage. John Sammer is the next. He's also trying to give it a go and distance himself from the others. I think the downhill is going to be very telling when we get to that. We've seen, particularly last week, in the West London VR race, it was pretty much a downhill race, and as John Sammett's just joined there. I don't know if they're going to ride together or not. Nick Greenhalgh is probably looking at that saying, hang on a minute, we can't let these guys go. So Nick giving it a little bit of push out the front in the blue jersey there, of course, and James Melville giving the Glasgow United rider there's an OTR, or was it a Moonriders rider just joining Nick at the front there. These guys are going to have to work together if they're going to reel in the ones in front of them. Otherwise, that's 5 up the road, and it's beginning to tell. Now, remember, of course, this is a series that's based on time and not points. And consequently, yes, in some races, if the guy's 50 metres ahead of you, it doesn't really matter whether it's 50 metres or 5 metres, because you'll just get the next clutch of points on offer. Here, though, time is at stake. As I say, I was saying there was a downhill race last week. We had a huge turnout for the West London VR race. It was downhill. It was exceptionally fast, and a lot of damage was done on the downhill. And I felt this myself when I've been in races, that some people really do know how to switch the power on a downhill, and it can damage it. Now, some of those people will be in the groups further back, which means they can catch. Some of those people might be in the groups further up, which means they can extend their leads. And I think, for all the excitement of the climb, the descent may be very, very telling. So I think we'll really understand this race when I think we're just coming up to the halfway stage and we've done that big blue descent. But for now, we're still going up and over the top of the hills. And remember, this is a race with 560 metres of climbing over 43 metres. You know, if your own judge of what a hilly course is. So I'm going to actually work on the basis of my own perception of this, if you don't mind. And I, based on where I live and the rides I do, I always take my little markers. If the ascent is more than 1% of the distance, it's a hilly ride, and if it's less, it isn't. And so, for example, if you ride a kilometre, then you would expect to do 10 metres of climbing, because that's 1% of a kilometre. So if you do 10 kilometres, you'd expect to do 100 metres of climbing on an average route, is my view. Now, this is quite clearly over average, but in that, not only is it over average, which in my book makes it a slightly hilly course, all of that is stuffed into this big long climb that we're doing now in the first half of the race. So the intensity of the climbing over the first half of this race is immense. This is quite a test, and we're seeing the results in that smashed up, broken up peloton. But descents can work. Look at this. Here we have 21st. Now I was saying that we were looking at this gap earlier. Could it come together or not? I see one of the Southborough, a couple of Southborough riders in there. Just trying to see which ones it is. Well, I can't tell at the moment, but I think they're going to get out to this little group in front, aren't they? So this is going to reform. Interesting stuff. See, the gaps aren't that big sometimes, are they? And this is what happens. So Anders Østgaard, let's go. Yep, Snever Anderson. Hang on, okay. Yes, certainly. Derek Bucock, hiya, Derek. 3 up front or away. They will not get caught. Okay. I'll tell you what, Derek. Should we have betting on this, and you can sort of like dump your bet halfway through if it looks like they're going to get caught? I think you might be right, Derek. Good call. I think you're probably right. I think I would bet with you rather than against you. That would be interesting if you had betting going on. Christophe Conton. Hiya, Christophe, down there in Clermont-Ferrand. Go John Beams, quite good race mates. Yes. I think you're mates with everybody, aren't you, Christophe? You're a very popular guy anyway. Lovely, and thank you for putting your messages up on Facebook for us. We love them. So we have got we're back down to 30th place. You can see here Daniel Nurjper there just fighting. This is where you need to hang on. See, Daniel's just got back onto that group. They're on a 3.8% climb. If somebody puts their foot down at the front, it can cause damage. Nick Giles there, Pokemotion 39th. Simon's in there. Jay Williamson and these are back in 40th, and they're on their own, and they're probably not going to make up that gap. 230 metres behind the next group, so they're where they are. 42nd could just catch those two in front, so that could be a bigger group. And as I say, I think if you are out there in a group of two and there's a clutch of people behind, my strategy would always be set up, get in the group and worry about beating them nearer the end, because to go out solo for a long distance. And bear in mind, we've got 33 kilometres left in this race, Tour de Monde. Stage 4, brought to you by OTR, broadcast by ZMS. I'm Dave Morrison, your commentator from the West London VR series, which takes place every other Wednesday. So we've got Sean Murdoch there in 44th. It's 7.9%. As I say, my personal view is that that sort of gradient hurts. 8% now. That sort of gradient hurts in races. That's just a personal view. I seem to sort of find them fine when I'm out on a normal sort of local ride, but put me in a racing situation and I'm absolutely dying going up a percentage like that. 4.7 now for Daniel, and he's pushing up. I think you need to, as a racer, I think you do need to push out and do your own hill climb. Obviously the effect of the draft is less, and as I say, it is an opportunity really for whatever group you're in to lose a few people off the back. So Christian Kula there putting out 300 watts at 87 cadence. He goes up the hill, breathing out a little, bumping up and down. Tony Simons 315, similar sort of cadence as well, 88, 89, and heart rate of 161 or 22. So Tony just giving it some there. Tulif Sully, Ratio Racing, he's putting out a lot more watts there, 425 watts, lower cadence of 70, and that probably explains that. Daniel just getting caught there. Bad luck, Daniel. Now we can see that most of the difficult climbing is out of the way. Don't underestimate, there is a little bump after this main mountain. You can see it later on, where it's a very deep red colour, so that will be telling. Nick Giles, Pokemotion, he's the man who put Pokemotion together. He's the organiser, the boss, whatever. I don't know if boss is the right word, but he's certainly the main man as far as I can make out of Pokemotion. So good to see you in the race, Nick, and a bit unfortunate being solo, but I'm sure sooner or later you'll find yourself back in the group. as Oram in 39th, just ahead of him. Sorry, just behind him, I should say. From Denmark, Martin Oram, the Dane here, and he's done the worst of the climbing over this mountain. So there is a dip and there's a descent about to come. So I think it'd be interesting to see what happens on that descent. Derek Bucock's prediction, remember, is that the front three will not get caught. I think I'm on the same page as Derek there. As I say, I don't think ZMS are licensed to bring you gambling and spread betting on all of this quite yet. We'll have to get in touch with some of the major bookmakers and see if they take bets on ZMS races. Actually, I'm going to retract all of that. I think it's probably the worst thing we don't really want. We don't want the sort of things that go on with the gambling, getting in here, people throwing races and all sorts. Christoph Contant, go Daniel Jürgen and Wout. Excellent, Daniel Newberger, and of course Wout. I haven't seen Wout in there. James Ogilvie, having on good authority, today's stage was designed for goats versus power riders. There are a lot of road after the climb before they reach Flick and Flack. Yeah, that makes sense, James. Thanks for filling us in. James is the organiser, so he knows more than most, and he certainly knows more than me. So if he says that, it must be true. So what he says. Thanks, James. If you've got any other background info, chuck it in, mate. It's brilliant stuff. Thank you. I see Peter Austin in there, 59. And who else have we got? Quite a few Scandinavians. Alex Plaisir. Alex Plaisir designs a lot of routes as well, the German. So he's a guy to look out for. Pedley here, the Brit, on his own really, 75 metres ahead of the next person, but a good 50 behind Hayes. So this is very spread out at the back. These guys are on their own. But can we go back to once, as James just said, there's plenty of road left after the mountain, and I think a lot of these guys could regroup. Now, looking at the front three, it's possibly a front two. So I could be really pedantic here, Derek, couldn't I? I could say, well, the front three. Actually, no, you might be right. The front three may not get caught, but I think it might be a front two and not a front three, unless Casper can get his mojo on. In fact, I think he has. He's pulled back the gap. It's Heinrich Mahr now putting out 300 watts, drops to 250, cadence of 82. And Caspers is back in there, and he's letting them know with a little flick on the front. You can't drop me that easy, says Caspers. Caspers likes to attack. He's an exciting rider to watch, so don't underestimate him at all. 200 metres back to John Beams in 4th place. Derek, I think you're going to win your bet if you've got any money on it. Good call, mate. So, who's going to be the best of the rest is going to be one question, but will these guys end up in a sprint? I think they might, because you know, if you look what's left after this, they're nearly at the top of what I would call the mountain range. They go past the little fan club there. So, assuming nothing goes wrong on the descent, I think those three could be duking it out for a sprint finish, which will be exciting. And then we have the best of the rest. The other thing is, watch the times. Derek Bucock, okay, if they are caught, add a fiver to the £100 prize. What a gentleman! Thank you, Derek. You want to add a fiver to the commentator's fee as well? I'm only joking, of course. Derek, thank you very much for your contributions. Absolutely fantastic. And here are details of the prize. £100 prize giveaway. Follow RGT Community News on Facebook. That's not a prize. That's an instruction. Well, I suppose actually you have to do it. But complete at least one stage of Tour du Monde, and you get drawn out the hat. I seem to remember the last. There's a really nice winner, wasn't there? I think it was a lady winner in the last Tour du Monde. I can't remember now. But it was a day after the race, and of course it wasn't. There were a couple of people who were never really anything close to the challenging for it, but absolutely pushed themselves to the limit to do every single stage, and everybody was willing them to get home in the last few stages. So that they would be in the prize draw, and one of them won, and everybody was so happy for her. And so I'm sure actually James will probably remind us who it was in a minute. But if I've got the story slightly wrong, James, please correct me. But that was brilliant. That was, because it really was one of the people who were on their kind of last I said it last legs, but you know they'd sort of ridden over the whole tour, absolutely knackered, and some punishing climbs in there, as I remember, and they just absolutely forced themselves through those last few, and one of them won. So yes, it can happen to you. So as I say, £100 giveaway. It could be £105 if anybody gets caught today. So keep watching, and we'll all shame Derek into sending his check. Whatever you need to do it. But anyway, very generous offer, Derek, whether or not it's at risk or not. I think you're probably safe, and you can probably go down the pub and have a pint with that beer. That's if a fiver will buy a pint where you live. Robin Sanderson here in 76. Always nice to go back. Mike Addy in there from Buckinghamshire up near Milton Keynes. And it's always nice to go back to the riders near the end. Mike Addy, as you can see. So I say, my view is that you get into these little groups at the back and you work your way. Look at that, 3 OTR riders in that little section, 1 Pokemotion. Oh, that's Kristen Edge, isn't it, in the Pokemotion kit? That's the GB kit there, the white shirt and blue shorts, which looks like an England football kit, is Pokemotion's colours. So Eric Spencer is in there as well, the Scot, as you can see the flag there, St Andrew's flag. Saltire next to his name. Mike Feely from Ireland, he lives in Dublin, and Brecalier from Belgium. I would say probably lives in northern Belgium. He still lives in Belgium. Matt Feely just taking him over a little bit. Spencer may be dropping off the back. They are on a 6% climb here. We've got 29. Nearly 30 kilometres to go, so plenty to happen. Just look at the bottom, which has been blotted out by Johan de Brekelier's stats. Sorry, no, you didn't have to take it away, Damon. I was fine. I was just about to say, just look how strung out the field is. If you look at all those white dots on the bottom on the profile, you can just see the length from start to finish of the riders. And remember, there's a lot of riders here anyway. There's 135 still riding. Matt Feely from Dublin here, great fella actually. I have to say, I have ridden, I can't anymore because he's got much better than me, but I think in the early days of RGT I quite often found myself being closely beaten by him towards the end, but not anymore. I think he's much better than me. So Holly Larson for the ladies, 95th in there. Great to see you there, Holly, from the USA. So Caroline here, another Rita Caroline is another rider towards the back, and one of the lady riders, of course. She's sitting on the wheel of Prinsloo from South Africa. Always great to see these, isn't it? So Holly Larson smartly sitting in the group there and making the most of that. She's not the only lady either, is she? So who else have we got? This group's splitting up a little bit. Holly's going to lose the draft there, I'm afraid, and she has. That's a shame, and that's a shame. She's a strong rider, though. I wouldn't dismiss the idea that she can catch that lot and get in there again. She's a canny rider as well, putting out 230 watts there, cadence of 80 in the data at the bottom. And look, she's just catching up again, mate. Smart rider, so very well done, Holly. Good stuff. So Higginson, another one of the lady riders, Denise Higginson from the from the USA. A lot of the best lady riders are coming from the USA, and got a nice little group of riders there. K2 is another one that we know of, and it's nice to see them all participating in this race, isn't it? So Wendy Wonderwheels at 103rd, I see in the that's Wendy Gallagher. She's just dropped from that, and she's behind and Nichols, Gordon Jackson, and Emma Gordon. So James Doyle, yes, all the Alps, and why Lantern Rouge, booked 175 in total, I think it was. They are, James. Well, you're younger than me, mate. You've got a better memory. You should remember. But thanks for filling me in. Brilliant stuff. Thanks, James. It was good, though, wasn't it, mate? It was, yes. That was. Anyway, it could be just as exciting this time. So, make sure you're in there for every stage. Now then, let's see what's going on at the front, shall we? These three, I see Paul Nicholls from OTR, 130 behind Gordon Jackson, Wendy Gallagher in there as well, making the most and using her OTR teammates, it would seem. So a little bit of organised team riding from the OTR guys. Wendy from New Zealand, of course, and one of the favourite lady riders on the RGT circuit these days, along with Linda van Dijk. Wendy looking after ladies classification for this tour as well, so keep your eyes open for news of that. I think James put a thing on Facebook about the places this morning, so make sure you're on there on the RGT community Facebook page. That's where you find out what's going on, isn't it? Casper headed them now with our two Swedes. The gap hasn't changed, so I think Derek's money is quite safe, but that gap around 200 metres back to John Beams hasn't particularly changed. That said, John is himself over 300 metres behind, ahead of the person in fifth, so I think it would be cruel on Derek if that became a 4 and we all said that they were caught. I think being caught by one rider would probably prove Derek right in principle, even if it technically wasn't fact. So I'll tell you what, Derek, here's the deal. If they get caught by one rider, it's £2.50 to the prize money, and if they get caught by a peloton, it's a £5. You don't have to say yes. Anyway, it's all good fun. RGT is the place to be if you want fun, and it's free. It is the station for racing. 111th, we have Slovenian Monde, and 118th Blackmore, another OTR rider. OTR must have a massive amount of riders. The amount of jerseys you see around, they must be doing very, very well. So, Turton there, the Welshman, just ahead of the American De Conrick. These are the back places, De Conrick, and Jakobsen is 124th. We still have 135 riders on the road, so people aren't packing it in. Felton, one of our lady riders, 125th, is still in front of 10 people by the sounds of things, although I think a couple of those will be camera bots. So this estimates probably about 131, 132 riders. Brill there is, we have Django, the Belgian, and Evans 129. Hard work up those hills, definitely hard work up those hills. 7.9%. You can see Evans just slowly. The cadence, I think, tells the story. Very different story here is the experienced riders like Lucas Hedenham and Mardy battling it out for top places in this tour show a very different demeanour. John Beams, how much has he got? 138. John Beams is a legend. This guy is fantastic. He's from Peddlers. Now, I've commentated on him before, and he has absolutely smashed it. And just look at this. He's reeling these guys in. So, how safe is Derek's fiver? I don't know, 170. It's gone out a little bit. Putting out 330 watts, a 90 cadence. He's all right. He's on the descent, of course. He goes through the halfway stage. The yellow banner there is a halfway stage, so he's got 21.5 kilometres still to go. And you can see where they are if you look at the bottom. I mean, this is on John Beams, who's just behind the leaders, 150. They gapped him a little bit on that. The gap between him and the next bunch is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So, well, okay. I think Derek's bet is going to actually add a lot to this race. I think, Derek, can you sort of do this on every race to add a little bit of spice to it, please? Let's. Walter Clays is in fifth. He's putting out a bit up the front for the Moon Riders. He's got a usual clutch of Scandinavians, I guess, a Slovenian and Scandinavian behind him in the guys of Eric and Klingsgaard. But there is a peloton there. This is probably this first 20 or so riders. Actually, who's that? Is that John Sammet going off the front, or is that Walter Clays? I think it's Walter Clays, isn't it? I think that might be John Sammet there in the white jersey. that we recognise for Pokemotion. It will say GBR. It's a British cycling style racing thing. Veric, the Slovenian, has decided that Wouter Plays needs a bit of company and perhaps a wheel to sit on, and I'm sure Wouter will take that very, very gratefully. But in fact, actually, all that's happened is he's dragged up a little bunch, and Wouter is worn back in. Gavash now, can he stay on? He just does it. It's a little bit of hard work, but once you get back in, you've got to keep your eye on what's going on. You lose concentration for a split second in one of these groups, and you are off the back, and it is very hard to get back on. Gavash just making it back on there into that group. Wouter Clays, 300 watts, 90 cadence. He's a strong rider, and James Melville is another strong rider. Glasgow United Cycling Club with the Scottish Saltire next to his name. Gavash now goes from the back to the front of that group, and not happy with having to sort of fight his way on. He's going to sort of fight the wind resistance, virtual wind resistance, of course, in the front of the race. They're going slightly uphill. Now we're on the little bit of road that is sort of leading up to that bump in the middle. Gavash there, 327, putting out 73 cadence and no heart meter there. So this little group is 3, 6, 7, 8. There's a group of 8 here, and you can see there's another big gap when you get back to the first 11. So this is the first 8. There should be 4 of me. It's up to 12, so I'm not quite sure why. Yeah, that's probably about right, actually. Yes, sorry, the big gap's 13 to 14, isn't it? A couple of 100 metres. John Beams now, he has caught them. Derek. Poor old Derek, look at this. Oh my goodness. As I said, I think a single rider doesn't count. I think Derek can keep his fiver for the moment. You can all vote on that. Remember, if you're on Facebook, you can put little messages up, and you can sort of we can do it a little bit like a children's entertainer. Look at that. Come on, John Beams, coming from Christophe Contant down there in southern France, Clermont-Ferrand, near Massif Central. Thanks for your contributions, Christophe. So if you want to add things on here, or does that count as John Beams didn't quite make it? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, they're pulling away again. Maybe Derek's fiver's safe. They are pulling away again. They're distancing John Beams. It's on a 9% gradient now. So I wouldn't. This is a little steep bit. Now John has caught them up on a little fat green bit, and we're going to have that little bump near the bottom. And on the last stretch, you can probably do it on the next stretch. So what are we going to see? Now they pulled out 30 metres on him there when he just caught them. So again, we'll let Derek keep his £5 for the moment. We'll count that as not quite a catch. Melville defending Tour de Monde champion. Yes, James Melville is a great chap. He is from Dumbarton in Scotland and is a gentleman, I can tell you, because I know the guy. Never met him personally, but I know him through RGT over a long time, and he's the reigning champion for Tour de Monde. So look out for him. He rides with Alistair McAlpine. They read the GCN kits, and as I say, they come as a little bit of a package from Glasgow United Cycling Club. Looking at the Zoom room, John Beams, he is the man. Now, that's the first time we've seen him grimacing a little bit, isn't it? But you would expect that. Can John Beams make up that 30 metres he just lost? And he might have just lost that, but he saved Derek £5, didn't he? So that's what he might have done. Let's see what happens. So Henrik Mahn, so we actually, if it does turn into a top 4, we have 2 of the top 4, in fact 3 of the top 4, because Matthias Lundqvist is there. So 3 of the top 4 are in our Zoom room, so we can see what they actually look like. Henrik Mahn has stripped off a little bit, Matthias has not, and John Beams certainly unzipped, and he's looking like he's forcing it at the moment. I suspect he's probably on that little steep bit, and if you look at the screen and look where the dots are, I'm pretty sure Nick will be on that that little steep bump in the middle. Now they're over that and they're descending at the front, so this is an opportunity for John Beams to catch up, and if he does, he has. So This is where we all have a vote on where Derek has to add £5 to the prize money or not. Does one rider really count as them being caught, or does it count as a great race across the gap by a single rider? I think I would let Derek off personally. If you disagree with that, please mention it on Facebook and we'll see what people think, and Derek can sort of bite his nails while he wonders whether he's about to lose £5 or not. So a group of 4 now, which actually gives it more chance of staying away, which actually endorses Derek Bucock's theory that they will stay out, and in fact, in the spirit he meant it, they have stayed out, haven't they? And I think this is going to stick. 400 metres, there's not really anything there that gives everybody behind a great opportunity to catch up. The peloton just behind is down to about 8 or 9 riders, and you've got 4 at the front. So the differential and the power of the peloton is not going to be that great. 16 kilometres back, 16 kilometres to go to Flick and Flack. It's such a great name for a town, Flick and Flack. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, you know, sounds like some gadget you can buy for a television advert, doesn't it? New Flick and Flack. You'll need one for your bike. So it probably sounds less funny in French than Flick and Flack. And they probably don't pronounce the K at the end, do they? Flick and Flack. So anyway, that's where we're going, Flick and Flack. And we have a group of 4. Then we have this secondary group here of about 7 or 8 riders, don't we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got 7 riders in this group, the 4 out the front, which gives us the front 11. There are going to be big time gaps on this, aren't we? So ZMS have voted that Derek can be let off the bet. I voted to let Derek off the bet. So that's 2 of us who said Derek can keep his money. If you want to vote the other way, Derek, I'll be over the moon if John Beams won today. So Derek, would you increase it to £10 if John Beams won? That's the next. Oh, I'm really stitching you up, aren't I? Sorry, Derek. I'm only having fun. It does add some fun to this, though, doesn't it? What a great tour this has been, and the last one was good as well, actually. So stick with it; it's going to be great. In fact, I'm looking forward to next Wednesday because I'll be back with you doing this. We're doing a double bill because it's will overlap with my race that I commentate on Wednesday evenings. If you're actually racing in both series, you probably need to do one of the earlier versions of the Tour du Monde if you want to race in the evening race with West London VR. But you can do that because this is a brilliant series because it allows you to race at different times of the day, which allows for time zones and clashes. So if you are racing in both those series, you might want to do an early one of the early options for Tour du Monde. But I'll be back doing a double bill, so I'll be commentating on both. There's a bit of overlap, so we'll switch from one to the other. But that will be exciting. And Derek will be there betting on it all, of course. I doubt. Maybe. I don't know. Live leaderboard. Casper Hedenham, J Beams, Lingfist and Nerd. Of course, they are probably taking turns on the front. I would venture to say. James Melville, defending Tour de Monde champion, as James has just reminded us, ahead of my mate from Ratio Racing, Nick Greenhalgh from Ealing. And we just saw grimacing a little bit as he went over the steep bump. But Nick's a strong rider. He has passed that and will now be hit between the teeth and going for it. Don't think he's going to catch these though. So Derek's got a 2-0 vote that he can keep his money so far, and we don't have any other votes yet. I'm sure Derek will vote for himself to keep his money, so that's 3, shall we say, and we'll see who else has anything to say about the matter. So we look at the live leaderboard on our right, all brought to you by ZMS. Damon Bates is the man who does all the techie stuff. I just waffle for you. John Sammert, Shinova, Vertic making up that top 10. In fact, there's one rider more because we all know that the top 11 is where it's at. So this is the next patch behind them. And we have Rocket Roy Neal in 20th place there. Peter Brookwavel and Jay Tobin from Ireland. Who else have we got? G Barnett, a British rider. So Careless Vespa, 13th. So we've got, well, I didn't quite count those, but there's probably a dozen or so riders in that little group, which takes us up to sort of 23rd-ish. I see Tom Moss was in 23rd from Southwood District Wheelers. If we look at these two in 27th and 29th, they're 300 metres behind the group in front. So 26. So if you're breaking it down, sort of 26 is where you're going to get a time gap. Well, after 26, so the 27th person will have a time gap, 12th person will have a time gap, and the 5th person will have a time gap, if that's your reference point. Remember, this series is all about time. I mean, it is like a professional Grand Tour where it's time, and there are time bonuses on offer today. So the front 5 will actually get some time bonuses. I'm not 100% sure what they are. Nick Giles from Pokemotion there, just ahead of a little group there. I don't know if James can remind us what the time bonuses are, but there are time bonuses up the front. There's 4 in that group, and I suspect if it's 1, 2 and 3, it's well worth a sprint there, because you don't want to be the 4th guy and not get the time bonuses. Anyway, maybe, as I say, I'm not 100% sure what they are, but there are certainly time bonuses on offer today. So this is well worth the break, because not only are they going to gap everybody else behind them, they are going to get bonuses. Je vous en prie. Thank you, merci Christophe. It's actually, I don't know why you're thanking me, Christophe, because you every time I commentate, you put up loads of comments, so you're a great contributor to all this. And I know you race too, because you've raced in plenty of my races. So I think you are a very important person in the RGT community. Thank you for watching, thank you for commentating, and thank you for racing. So anyway, what have we got here? So basically, I suppose the gaps are not really going to change a lot now. We're looking at 12 kilometres to go. I think these, much in the way Derek actually rightly pointed out, I think much of these groups are formed now. I don't think the gaps are going to basically change, but we're going to have some interesting sprints here, because in a competition where time determines where you are in the placings, you do need to get a couple of seconds here and there on your rivals. Here we have a very esteemed and top riders, this lot, aren't they? Look, I mean, every one of them, they're all. I mean, we've got 3 of the top 4: Nick Greenhouse, Daniel Nurschber, and Anders Johnson. That's a pretty prestigious lineup in our Zoom room, and I think it's very brave of them to actually sort of actually go on there, because I mean, I would dread it. My face would just be sort of like all over the place, in pain, probably swearing at my legs, and so hopefully they got the sound down. John Beams is certainly not looking as cool as he did when we looked at him much earlier in the race. I mean, but he's looking a little bit less stressed than the last time we came on. Don't always judge by face. Nick Greenhouse sort of just adjusting something there. Henrik Mard out of the saddle. They are on a very small gradient, that front 4, and you can see the effort on John Beam's face, and Henrik Mard now back in the saddle. Longfist though is out of the saddle. He looks like he's out of the saddle. Might just be the camera angle, and I might be misjudging that a little bit, so we shall see. So I suppose we're getting to the stage where we're 3/4 of the way through the race, and it's going to be interesting how this affects the standings. We did have a look at the standings at the beginning of this race, you will remember. But as a guide, the standings: top 3 gets 30, 20, and 10 seconds. Thanks you, James. You're a great team player, mate. Thanks for filling in the gaps that I leave. We're doing a tour of the clubs as a double act at some point after the tour. So looking at this, the leaders: Henrik Mard, who's in that front group, John Beams in that front group, Casper Hedden in that front group. So the front 3 in the tour, all about 250, 251 hours so far, and we're only on stage 4. Remember, with another week and a half to go of this. Nick Giles, way back in 30th, was in 4th place at 252, but there's going to be a huge gap back to him. James Melville is the next one I would look out for, who's in the next group, who was 252. So this is going to start determining the front. Jan Lindem from Pokemotion, Jan van der Linden from Pokemotion 252. Nick Greenhouse at 252 as well. Going to be gapped. Alistair McAlpine and these are people: Daniel Lerchber, John Samet. So there's a lot of people around at 252, 253 that are going to find themselves a little bit back in G space. I think it's an old adage that relating to Tour de France that the Tour is won in the mountains. I'm not sure that's always true, but I think it's certainly lost in the mountains. I think basically if you can hold your own in the mountains, sometimes a time trial will do the trick. But certainly this climb at the beginning of this race has determined the shape of the finishing. All we need to know is who gets what and where. And remember, as James has just kindly reminded us, it's 30 seconds for first, 20 seconds for second, and 10 seconds for third. And these guys, well, 3 of the 4 of them are going to have a nice big gap in front of the people just behind them, just based on where they finish in the race as well. So that's double bubble for them. Fantastic stuff. So let's see what we've got here. That's looking at various stages of the race. We've got in the bottom right hand corner, you can see the front 4 there, a little bit strung out there. They're not totally riding wheel to wheel, but it's not the easiest thing to do in RGT racing, of course. So whatever. Bottom left hand corner, we have the guys just behind them. So that's a little group of 7. In fact, it isn't, is it? It's less than 7. There's only 5 of them there now. It was 7 earlier, so they've dropped 2 of their riders. That'd be interesting. That's something's happened there, hasn't it? So the 7's gone down to 5. Oh no, here we are. Nick Greenhouse doing what he does and going off the front. So it's certainly back to 6. I don't know where the 7th one is. We shall find out. Oh, actually, it's James Melville. Yeah, he's like Nick, he goes off the front as well. So, in fact, it is 7. James Melville just a few metres in front, and he's just been caught. James from Dumbarton there, just outside Glasgow. Place I've cycled through, I have to say. Jan Scheppers, Belgian, taking his turn on the front. Jurek Veric, the Slovenian, on his wheel. James just tucking himself in there ahead of Nick Greenhouse. Kingsguard and Snuva making up the 7. Now I say James Melville and Nick Greenhouse have got a lot riding on this, and they do need to make up as much time as they can. As I say, I don't think they're going to. It's now 650 metres to the front group with 9 kilometres to go. So Derek's money is safe. Nobody's voted against him. You can put your wallet away, Derek, and breathe easily, because you're not going to be ending up spending another £5 tonight. So we should have a special prize, a Derek Bucock prize for something or other, shouldn't we? Best breakaway or something like that. Anyway, let's have a look. I think these groups are going to be sort of fairly formed, unless somebody gets a mechanical of some sort, or something really nasty happens, because there's no vicious climbs coming up now. Yes, it's slightly uphill, 1%, but it's all manageable for riders of this calibre, and I think we can safely assume that they're going to get back to the finish in flick and flack in the groups they're currently in. And again, we can see just how strung out this race is, can't we? Looking at the dots, there's people who probably haven't finished halfway of the race, and I'm not looking at the 3 dots right near the start, because I assume those are people who've actually had a mechanical and had to stop. But as we look at Group 3 here, Roy Rocket Neild in the Curtis Vesper, Hartfeld, Tobin the Irishman in this little group now of about a dozen riders. Going back, Wouter Clays, and that's a long way back for Wouter Clays. I don't think he's used to being that far back in a race. He's 500 metres behind. He's 27th, 500 metre gap to the 26th. So that's not some familiar to see. Tim Achenbach in there, Daniel Newberger, Nick Giles, 36th. This is a disaster. Nick Giles is actually 4th in GC at the start of this race. So I don't know if Nick's had a problem or just got caught the wrong side of a few breaks, and he's actually out on his own there. Not great news. 130 metres ahead of this little clutch. They may well catch him. Say Tim Arch about Williamson and Daniel Hirschberg in there. This is a very Scandinavian little group, isn't it? Look at that. Danes and Swedes by the looks of it. And that it is, isn't it? It's yes, this is certainly Scandinavia. Oh, this one's all British, look. Oh, it's all getting very patriotic, these groups, aren't they? There is a German in there, of course. And here we are. This is the true international spirit of RGT racing. A little bit of a mix-up with a Dutch flag, a Netherlands flag, a couple of British and a Swedish flag, making up this little quartet of riders. And again, this is nice to see, isn't it? Australia, UK, Germany and Norway making up this little Alex Plaisir in there, one of the stalwarts of RGT. Amaker for Britain is just ahead of Christian Edge from Denmark, from Pokermotion. He's not going to stay there because Christian's going to catch him. These are strong riders. I mean, you see something like Christian Edge, back in 62nd, yeah, this has been a tough race. And we were looking at the time gaps before this race. They weren't this massive. So this mountain or hill or whatever you want to call it, but this climb has shaped this series. So what a classic race this one's turning out to be. Back in 77, Wagstaff there. 127 riders online, so we've lost one or two, but a smashing start. Don't forget that OTR broke the RGT turnout record yesterday, 185 riders, I believe. Congratulations to everyone involved on that. Sorensen in 77th. I don't know if we can go further back and see where some Spencer Heckleton 60th with flying, but Verfide. Now Verfide, it's dropped quite a lot. He was much further up earlier on. So that was James Lou. Who we got? Caroline there. So I think we're probably one batch away from some of our lady riders. Who we got here? It's Matt Feely's group. I think we've got one lady rider in there, haven't we? Or maybe the camera's flicking around a little bit too quickly for me. Gordon Jackson in there. Wendy, there we are, Wendy Gallagher. I recognise Wendy in her resplendent OTR kit with M. Gordon and Leon and some others. It's Holly Larson, unfortunately on her own, 200 metres behind Wendy, and she's going to lose ground to Wendy in the ladies GC here, but she's 500 metres ahead of the next batch. So still another sterling ride from Holly, an accomplished rider from the United States of America. Great to see her out here riding. So who else we got? Going back, Vanderlip, Gill, Bennett. Going back, we'll get back into the hundreds now. 103rd, 104th. Mike Wareham there, 104th. And Chilavere for Moon Riders. In fact, two Moon Riders there, Mike Wareham and Chilavere. The Moon Riders, as I say, were in that GBR kit. Murray with the Soltar from OTR. Plenty of OTR jerseys. We should all know what they look like by now. Nice little international grouping. Canada, Slovenia and Germany as Canoe and Konigsberg and Blackmore making up this little group. Back in 26 riders now, so we just lost another one, another OTR jersey. They're everywhere. Shame you can't sell these, isn't it, James? Because then you'd be retiring soon. I think the amount of jerseys you'd have sold. Fantastic job you've done of it all anyway. Furlan at 117th, one of the lady riders from Slovenia. Again, there a lot of Slovenian riders taking part in RGT. I don't know how. I mean, it'd be very easy to make a throwaway commentator comment, wouldn't it? That the likes of Roger Lick have inspired Slovenia, but I'm pretty sure that cycling's been big there for years, because I remember visiting Slovenia many years ago, and was quite surprised how much stuff was on sale in sports shops for cyclists, and it gave me the impression that cycling was rather popular a long time ago. I mean, Roger didn't get up one day and suddenly decide that he was going to be a top rider. You know, so as I say, I think Slovenia's probably always been there, and we just pay it more attention these days than we used to. So Evans, and that's a truly great Welsh name for this lady. And in fact, we've got two, even our little club rides on Sunday, we had a new guy join whose name was Evans, and one of the existing Evans pointed out what a brilliant surname it was, and I'm sure all Evans feel that way. John Beams now in the group, and I think he's in the group here to stay. 3.4 kilometres now. I think they can afford a bit of cat and mouse, I suspect, and I'd say 3.3 kilometres. I mean, they are racing for time, so there's no point sort of really playing cat and mouse too early if they are vying for those points on offer. 30 seconds for first, 20 seconds for second, and 10 seconds for third. So I think this is not the time. You know, you'd be better to finish fourth and having gained 20 seconds on everybody else, I think, than sort of lose a couple of minutes to everybody else after all that hard work. That said, we have three of the, you might take the completely opposite view to that, because we have three of the top four in this bunch. So therefore, losing 30 seconds bonus and a couple of seconds to one of your arch rivals may be the difference between finishing on the podium or not, or even first, or you know, first as opposed to second or third. So all these riders will have their own strategy on that. Casper Heddenham doing what Casper's always does, which is launch off the front. You want Casper's and Nick Greenhalgh in your races, because they do this. John Samet as well. Great little riders. They take it off the top, put a little bit of pressure on. John Beams can handle that. We've seen him catch this lot, and almost proved Derek wrong, but we decided it wasn't sufficient to deprive Derek Bucock of the £5 he offered if the group got caught. Funny, I'm enjoying your ramblings. Yeah, I think my wife says I ramble as well. Thank you, Derek. Derek, look, if you don't, you contribute to this. You give me the lines, so you know you give yourself a good pat on the back, mate. So you know, without you guys, it would be nothing. Christophe, and congrats in advance for the first row. I think Henrik Mard will do the win. It's your moment, mate. Come on. So you're not going to put a £5 bet on that, are you then, Christophe? Impressed by Nick Greenhalgh, what power you have. I'm always impressed by what power all these guys have, but Nick is certainly a strong rider and a proper gentleman as well. I do know him. Mickey Hilgard, come on, Casper Heddenham, pump it hard. Casper is a great rider. I think he does burn off a bit too much energy with those little spurts off the front sometimes. Jesper Gottlieb, but come on, Heddenham, you've got this. Tag. So the Danish contingent are right behind Casper's. So it's we shall see. Derek Pugott, John for the win. Derek Pugott giving it. Yes, this is brilliant. Come on, guys, come on. Oh, we should really sort of like have. As I say, one part of me wants to. You know, have everybody sort of like predictions up there and see who's right. But on the other hand, I think we don't want to encourage gambling in an RGT, do we? So, what's going to happen? We're getting closer and closer to the finish. 1 kilometre to go. They're going through the Flamme Rouge. Mard's got a gap of 30 metres on the other three. Can they work together and catch him? This is going to be absolutely thrilling. 900 metres to go. And it's they're close to... Oh, they haven't. He's pulled out his 30 metres. Henrik's going to get it. And somebody just predicted that, but John Beams is going for it all. 700 metres, you know, you can burn yourself out in this last kilometre. Can the three catch him? He's up to, no, he's 50 metres now. I think he's got it. Everybody said he would. He was leading the series before this. He's got to keep pushing. He's got 475 metres to go. Can he do it? He's holding it at 50 metres gap. The other three are going to have to duke it out for the other points. 30 seconds bonus time if he can do it. He's only got 300 metres. The other three are not going to close that gap. They've got it down by 10 or so, or maybe they can. It's come right down to 30 metres. Henrik's going to have to really push hard. He's got 150 metres to go. He can barely just about see the finishing line, I should imagine. And they're going to catch him. Casper Heddenham doing it. So, oh, what a shame. John, oh, look at that. Lundqvist for Sweden gets it ahead of Casper Heddenham. Henrik Mard, I really thought I got it with that break. Did it, and John Beams, after all that hard work catching up, had to settle for fourth. Probably took too much out of him in the catch up to have it in the sprint. Heinrich Mard, I really thought he'd got it with 150 metres to go, but the others just up their game. What a thrilling finish. Superb stuff. Now we're going to have another one here. We've got 1.2 kilometres to go, this Group 2. Now remember this time John Samet, as I said earlier, he's a man who likes to push off the front. 1.1 kilometres to go as he goes through the Flamme Rouge, making it 1 kilometre to go. I think this is too early. The others haven't let him go. Nick Greenhalgh in there, James Melville. These are guys who know how to sprint at the end. This is going to be an action-packed one. Johan Shepherd's in there as well, I see. Schnuver for Denmark, 2 Danes in there. Klingsgaard as well. So this is down to 700 metres. Nobody going for it quite yet. Is that Nick Greenhalgh pushing off the front? I don't think so. They're not going to let him. Everybody playing cat and mouse. Now, the skill here is probably not to be on the front with 50 metres to go and then go for it. Somebody's just been dropped. It looks like James Melville. That surprises me. James is usually good at these. James getting dropped there is a surprise for me, but he hasn't given up yet. He's always coming back. Now, oh yeah, in fact, he's coming back in a way that suggests it might not be over yet. He might be timing his sprint because we've only got 250 metres to go now. Nick Greenhalgh is on the front. Verdict, they say, coming around his last little twist before the end. They've dropped Klingsgaard off the back. Oh no, he's timing which I should imagine it's going to be Samet. I think it is John Samet who gets that one ahead of James Melville. And well, that was kind of different, wasn't it? That one, they just did all lunge at the end. This is the third group. This is Sprint City here today. This is fantastic, isn't it? So who's going to win this one? Come on, Derek, where's your money? Who else was putting some? There was plenty of you doing predictions. Who's going to win this one? I can't quite see where they're at, and the names are blocking out people at the line, so I didn't quite catch who did what in that one. I'm really sorry. Sack the commentator. Brun coming in 28th, just finishing there. We will get confirmation of those positions very, very shortly. And certainly on our screens now, as you can see on the right hand side, John Samet, as I said, just pipping James Melville in front of Joris Shepherd's, Nick Greenhalgh having it settled for 8, Joris Versich and Mads Klingsgaard making up the top 10. We shall see some more places. But we have another sprint on the way, 250 metres to go, and it's Hughes ahead of Nicholas May. It's to go through that last little twist. You can see the finishing line now. I think it's going to be Hughes. He's looking strong, but can Nicholas just flip him on the line? No, I think Hughes got it, didn't he? Yes, he did. Here we are. It's still Moon Riders racer there. 33rd position, very well ridden. Sir Wouter Clays is coming round. Another Moon Riders, a couple of Timo Ackenbach there as well for Moon Riders. 2 Moon Riders in here. Wouter Clays is a good sprinter, so you wouldn't bet against him in this group. He will time it to perfection. It doesn't always work, but look out for Wouter Clays. It's the time gaps that are going to be of interest here, isn't it? And if you can see from 4th to 5th, there's something like just over a minute and a half of time gained by the top 4. Remember, John Beam's missing out on the bonus seconds, so Matthias Lundqvist getting an extra 30 seconds as well. So it'll be 2 minutes gained there. Casper Hednam similarly, but it was a 20-second bonus. Timo Ackenbach now, so they've got 300 metres to go in this latest sprint, is sitting at the back for Moon Riders. Is he timing his spurt or not? Somebody's going off the front, so it is the Netherlander who's going off the front, chased by Daniel Lerchber. Timo Ackenbach is probably being dropped now, and one of the Pokemotion riders now is pushing past Ackenbach and just nicks that point from him. Williamson coming in next from the UK. And going through the Flamme Rouge, Janssen, and closely followed by it's Julian Fussell. It's the Southborough rider there, and I think Baggy as well. There's another South District Wheelers riders, the SDW crew. Looking out for Friday Frenzy, brought to you by ZMS and Southborough District Wheelers on a Friday evening. Another one of the great RGT series to watch. Tom Moss, 22nd for Southborough District Wheelers. Well, as soon as we're talking about them, as we pump up the results for you. Another sprint coming up. This is Scandinavia versus Britain, this one, isn't it? Julian Fussell, Urum, and who else have we got in there? Baggy for Southborough District Wheelers, and Sean Murto. Julian Fussell absolutely pushing it, but he's not going to get away with it that easy. He's being chased. He's being chased by Oram, but the OTR rider. Oh no! It's everybody. It's all about timing with this, isn't it? And it's Oram, the Dane, who gets ahead of Jonsson, the Swede. Seabrand, another Dane. The Danes have been absolutely terrific on this. They started joining. I might get my timelines wrong, but a few Danes were riding, certainly people like Tom Cakes, were riding from the get-go on RGT. But at some point in 2021, there was a real interest, and they held a bit of a convention in Copenhagen, and they ran a race, and they ran a live race from this convention, which was well attended. And ever since, and I think probably just before that, you were getting quite a few Danes on RGT, but it's blown up. Peter Austin from Leatherhead in the south of England is another OTR rider, but they've all been distanced by the Southborough District Wheelers rider, Western, who's going to finish 50th. Peter Austin showing his class with a bit of a push for OTR just there, and that one not so keenly contested sprint, but certainly people getting the odd second on each other and punching for place. As we can see some more results coming up. David Baggy was the other South District Wheelers rider in 48th place. His teammate Julian Fussell, who I sometimes speak to on social media. Per Sondby, 42nd Andreas Johnson. So many Scandinavians here. Belgium, Scandinavia and Germany are providing a lot of RGT riders, and we see another German here. Tient is coming in with 330 metres to go, 54th place. So, Falkhaven, what a legendary finish. It was indeed, sir. We couldn't have asked for more, could we? Thoroughly entertaining. We thank the riders, and we thank you for watching as well. Great racing. You're right, you're dead right, Derek. You've called most things right. Almost. It's, anyway, we won't hold you to that one. Tient there, crossing the line for Germany. Hey, we have another little bunch coming up. That might be worth a sprint. It's 500, 600 metres to go for this little clutch around about, well, we've got 50 something. They're more than 50, aren't they? So anyway, the late 50s. Probably the age range of some of them. Nick Giles, so tough for me on rollers. Oh, is that what's happening? Sorry, I missed half of that, Nick. I was looking at the screen. Oh, what a finish. So nice, Henrik Meyer. You made a superb final. Yes, that's absolutely right, Crystal. Yes, I didn't realise you were on rollers, Nick Giles. Yes, I have heard that it's hard. I can't actually balance on rollers, so I wouldn't know. And what we get cooked there, just taking that for 3R, the Australian rider ahead of Alex Blazier. Voicing them with cycle Christian Edge. He's still to finish in 60th, and Christian, that's way back. I would expect Christian to be higher up than that, but I think just maybe that he'll time. He's just pipped Mike Addy there from up near Milton Keynes in Buckinghamshire. Simon Miller, he's the guy who puts all the South District Wheelers stuff together. Great there. 68th, the Belgian, and with a name like that, I suppose you'd have to be Belgian or Dutch, wouldn't you? And he's 68th, and we still have another 58 riders to finish, and they're going to be finishing in reasonable batches. You can actually see between 68th and 69th, there's 900 metre gaps. That's nearly a whole kilometre till the next ride. Well, it's not going to be. It's probably going to be about 900 metres by the time the Breaklear crosses the line. But so I'll have to sit and discuss all things RGT. I'm looking forward. My next commentary on this is next Wednesday, and as I was saying earlier, it's a double bill. It's my own race, the West London VR series, and this, and we'll be flicking between the races. They'll both be going on simultaneously. If you are racing in both series, you might want to do one of the earlier versions of Tour de Monde that day, so that's a day off work. Sorry, there's just not enough room in a packed schedule on RGT, is there? But yeah, I'm looking forward to next Wednesday, because I think this and that as a double bill is just going to be a festival of RGT racing, isn't it? I'll be here Sunday doing the Echelon Racing Community Series as well. So plenty to look forward to on ZMS. Don't forget Southport District Wheelers race on Friday, the Friday Night Frenzy. Simon Miller organises that, and you can see him there in 63rd position. 1 hour 15 was the time. We shall, when this all settles down, we're going to have a look at start analysing the time gaps on a much bigger list of riders. Brandy, a great name. I like the drink. There used to be a singer called Brandy as well, an R&B singer that I recall well. In fact, I'm pretty sure I did a show with her when I was a younger man. Anyway, that's I'm just going to have a look at my my old flyers from my old music career. So let's have a look. Wax star for Britain. A few Brits coming in here. Austrian brandy. It's expect him to have a barrel under his chin with some brandy in it. So Pluto, the German 74th, and we've still got another 50 odd riders to finish. So plenty more to come. Stuart Hall, I think, in 78th there is a Watford Velo rider, and actually I think Watford Velo are going to grow into this. They've started RGT a couple of months ago. Basically, they're kind of one of those little stories where I was in touch with them anyway. And Simon Hall is the guy I speak to about RGT, and he's doing a superb job with Watford Velo. They're a great little club. In fact, they're not a little club at all. They're quite a big club, but they are a great club up there in Watford, just outside London in Hertfordshire. And as we look at Orenson in 76th, Hackleton in 71st, and we can see the time gaps beginning to sort of be a minute here and a minute there. If you look at 68th, Johan de Brecler was 1 hour 15:47, and just over a minute behind was Marianne Van Huel at 1:16:49, alongside Van Hayes on exactly the same time, riding together. And very grey shirts, Matthias Lundqvist, and good job, Henrik Mard. That's what we like to see, competitors congratulating each other, which you do see a lot of on Strava and on the RGT platforms, Facebook pages, etc. And I guess all the other things like Discord. So yeah, I mean, it is a great community, and thank you very much. Henrik Mard coming back, Matthias Lundqvist, I'm not reading that one out. I have that in English, sorry. I can just about translate French. Great coverage, guys, James Ogilvie says, the man behind all of this. Very exciting finishes everywhere. Sign up to OTR Events Facebook group for the earliest results, news and next stage preview later this evening. I suspect James is going to be sitting there going through lots and lots of numbers like I do after my races. Never underestimate how hard an organiser works. That's what I always say. It is you'll be quite surprised how much tidying up goes on after one of these races, just to get everything out. And James does a superb job of this. And I know from my own experience how long it takes to sort everything out after a race. And I'm sure James has got a long evening ahead of him. I'm sure he loves it though, doesn't he? So who we got coming in now? So we've got lots and lots of them. Wendy Gallagher for New Zealand coming in there for OTR. Wendy Wonder Wheels finishing. So we're getting the ladies coming home. Nick Greenhouse, man, that was threshold stuff. Nick, I don't know if you were listening, but there was one point where you were going up a little bump and your face showed it, and I think that's the first time I've ever seen that from you. So well done, Nick. Thanks. Hope to see you soon. And what have we got coming up now? Let's look at the great. We've got the results. We can start analysing the time caps. So the front group all on 1 hour 6 minutes and 25 seconds. They were about a minute and a half ahead of John Samet. But remember, Matthias Lundqvist is going to get a 30-second bonus, which I'm sure James Ogilvie is calculating into the standings now. Casper Hedenham gets an extra 20 seconds. Henrik Mard an extra 10 seconds. So I think I think what we're looking at is sort of 1 minute 40 lost by John. 1 minute 40 lost by John Samet, James Melville, and Nick Greenhouse. Now Nick Greenhouse right down to Yeah, Snaver, all on that 1:08:04. So that was our front 11, and if you remember, there was that group of 7 that finished next. The next group, though, only 25 seconds behind them. So for all that gap, the Gavache, James Slobin, Mark Rowe, bottom group, Jürgen Janssen, Paul Newton, Niels Bosandraard, Peter Brookwavel from Berkshire, Greg Barnett, and Careless Vespa. They 29, 108, 29, 108, 30. Their next batch only lost about 25 seconds on the group ahead of them. But we will now have big splits or splits in the GC. So as I say, I recommend you go and have a look at OTR's results page to get that later on in the evening. Give James a bit of time, because I know it does. It takes longer than you might think, just to make sure everything's ready to publish. Even if you get the results straight away, and from my own experience, you do get the results straight away, but you need to go through and sift through some of that stuff. Moving on to 21st place, Jonathan Stevens and Tom Moss from Southborough, Jan van der Linden from Locomotion, all on 8:30, and you go right down to Rocket Roy Neal, just behind about Harveld in 25th for that 1:108. The next group only about 13 seconds behind them, down to Daniel May in that little clutch of 27 to 30. I suspect there was 1 or 2 more of those in there. So you can see down at 30th place, we have a 3-minute spread. That starts to become significant now. We're on stage 4, and a 3-minute gap now is going to be sort of harder for people to bridge than the gaps we had before. As I say, there are a lot of people very close together before today, so that mountain has done the business, and we're right back to 14 minutes. If you look at Kristen Edge, Locomotion, in 60th place there, 1 minute 14:54. So that's a good it's a good 9 minutes afterwards. So there's going to be gaps that can't be filled. Names to pick out: Marco Verhoed, Alex Blazier, all down there on 1:14 in that group. Tim Cook as well from 3R. They were about 40 seconds behind Gerard X, the German. Jorgen van Beurs was a minute or so in front of him in a little group with Peter Austin, Soderberg, and Mike Weston from Southwood District Wheelers. And again, another 40-second gap back to Christian Brandt, who was from the ECKD, which is a Danish cycling union, and it's E-Cycling Club Denmark. It stands for. David Baggy from Southborough was a good minute in front of his team, or nearly a minute in front of his teammates, alongside Leon Parks from 3R. This little clutch on 01:11:52:53, stretching all the way from 40th down to 48th, and in fact they were only just 2 seconds behind Jonty Williamson in 39th place, and himself just behind Timo Ackenbach, who we saw just being picked there by Christian O'Culler when we were watching. Bart Mennick at 1:10:41 finished 36th, alongside Wouter Claes, who of course just pushed ahead to get that extra place, but Daniel Nurjberg pipped him to it by the looks of things. Izzy Thor at 1:09 was over a minute in front of them. Keith Atchison beating him by 6 seconds, and Tony Simons beating Keith by 2 seconds. So that is a sort of time span. You've got a good 9 minutes over 60 places. So it will be interesting to have a look at the leaderboard. I think Facebook will be alive tomorrow morning with everybody discussing where they're at. I'm sure Wendy Gallagher will put together the female classifications for you, and there's more coming right back down to these. You can see, so there's another, if you look at Mike Addy there, there's a spread of another 6 minutes. This is really, I think, these are people now that have had probably to ride a lot of that race solo, because they've fallen out of groups and things like that. Starting at the top though, Mike Addy, Simon Miller and Andy Macker. There's a little clutch there: Robin Sanderson, Anders Thun, Phil Headley, and Hans Persson. They down to 67th, and then you start getting the gaps with solo riders. Not all of them were solo, of course. We can see Chris Horton and Harry Brandy were together. Just looking out for some of the ladies. in there. I'm not sure Fran Hayes is. I think not. I'm not picking Matt Feely from Dublin at 84th, and Gordon Jackson from OTR. I should make some more jokes about the professionals next time we see Gordon riding. If you didn't get that, Gordon Jackson was the... If you're old enough to remember the professionals, which I think is on one... If you live in Britain, it's on one of those old channels where they show old programmes from the 70s or something like that. But he was the MI5 guy in the professionals. Anyway, we've still got some finishers here, haven't we? Should we have a look at these guys coming in? Because that's a nice little clutch there. Last rider there, Evans from Wales. And not everybody called Evans is from Wales. Nick Greenhouse, what a low cadence with your bike. Oh, I see, it's Christoph telling Nick he's got a low cadence. Okay. He's quite a cool character. Holly having dropout after dropout, still pushing on What Spirit. Oh, thanks for letting us know, Paul. That's a shame for Holly. That's not good when that happens. We had one last week in the West London VR. Cara Bono had the same thing. She was actually competing very well. Some other ladies in a three-way tussle in a little group that looked very interesting, and she had completed another dropout. Dead computer, she was telling me afterwards. It's just so sad when this happens. A lot of us have had it happen to us. Keep going, Holly. We're all willing you home. Go on, girl. You can do it. Your computer might not be able to, but it's... You have to get a new broadband provider. James Ogilvie, next Wednesday, David at Calais through the Channel Tunnel. Yes, I shall be here commentating on it and looking forward to that. And as I say, it is a bit of a double bill, so we're sharing space between James and myself with our respective races. We should be able to, I think by calculation, we should be able to show the finish of both. So that's something to look forward to. Double bill next Wednesday. Look forward to that one. And who else we've got here? We've got Colin Evans, who's got 8.5 kilometres to go. So it's going to be some time, I think, before the finish. And Matthias Lundqvist, 20 minutes above 5.3 watts per kilogram to keep up with Henrik, and the rest today in the brakes are empty now. Yes, Matthias, but you did it in the sprint, didn't you? So you did exceptionally well to finish that one off. Did you see another rider, another OTR rider coming through the Flamme Rouge, and so it's 112th, and we've still got another 13 odd riders. As I say, if you look down the list, you've got Konik at 1.62 kilometres, Elliott at 2.9. Furlong at 4.48. I don't think we're probably going to have enough time to. We probably haven't got enough time to sort of wait for every single rider, but we'll see how many we can get into the finish. Elliott at 3.5 there. Furlong at 5.6 kilometres to go. So some time to go, but we'll see what we can do. ZMS bringing you the productions. Django Evans, 127th, is 7.8 kilometres down, doing 23 kilometres to go. So that's probably going to be a 20 minutes to the finish. Although, say that, it's yeah, maybe 20 minutes to the finish. Next rider for OTR coming in there at 117. 12 riders still out there, Brandy and oh, sorry, not Brandy, Barnaby. I'm misreading that. Brandy's already finished. Jay Barnaby, 113th, just finishing there. Leaving 11 riders online out of, I think, 100. We certainly had about 126 at some point on this. So let's say Jacobson from the United States, 114th, will be our next finisher. 250 metres to go. So I don't know if we've got any other screens we need to show you while we're just waiting for some of these people to finish, because the next finisher is still got a kilometre to go. One behind that is 2.5 kilometres to go. So let's have a look at tomorrow's stage, shall we? If we've got a map for tomorrow's stage. So here we go, Zanzibar, Tanzania, and as you can see, it's a pretty flat coastal road going out there, and following the coastline along the Tanzanian coast. I mean, I should imagine, based on where Tanzania is, that's heading southwards, and Mangawapa coast all the way there. It is Bumwini, and then a little zigzag as we drop down to the coast. So I should imagine that's probably a downhill descent. Looks absolutely fabulous, doesn't it? It's on a little peninsula there, as you can see, with the population living in the middle on the higher ground. Let's hope it doesn't flood. I think that looks absolutely wonderful. So that's Zanzibar, 38.1 kilometres, 150 metres climbing. That is a pretty flat race as things stand. So that'll be fast and furious. Times gaps might not be quite as incredible, you know, as impressive as they are today. So that'll give some people a chance to stay with the pack and consolidate their position, I would suggest. And those that have suffered today, and we've got Nick Brenhouch's comment about just how hard that was today, to suggest that there'll be a few riders looking for an easy day tomorrow as Elliott comes home next. And 1.5 kilometres to go, and we've still got I think somebody's dropped out. I think Evans might have dropped out here, because we're looking at Brill at 2. Django at 4.9, 4.39. He's in 120th, so 5 kilometres to go. So it looks like some of the back markers may have decided that that is that for the evening. I say the evening, which of course explain, you know, as you probably well know, I'm commentating this from the United Kingdom. So here in London, it is the evening. I'm sure for many of you in the United States, it's actually, if you're in the United States, it was 8 o'clock. So it's probably mid-afternoon, depending on which United States time zone you're in. So you're probably enjoying the afternoon as we speak, and depending on which end of the United States you're in, the amount of daylight and temperature will of course be different too. And of course, if you're from Australia, it's altogether very, very different scenario. And of course, Wendy, sorry, and New Zealanders, of course, especially for Wendy Gallagher, who's out there doing it for the sisters. Elliott now with just 500 metres to go. There's that little zigzag wiggle waggle, and then over the line. T. Funderburg is. What a fantastic name. I don't know if that's a real name or it isn't, but if it is, it's brilliant. Funderburg, our goal at 118th. Right, so what have we got? Casper Hednam. It's a strong sprint and strong breakaway from came in to finish. It certainly was, Casper, and I do love your little digs off the front, mate. That was a cracking bit of riding, but you always light up races, and I think it's great to see you in them, and very well done, Casper. Another fantastic ride from you. I salute you, sir. Chapeau. Well done. Thank you. And thank you for posting up here, Casper. As we have another finish in the shape of Elliott. So how many more have we got to go? Not too many. Django is down at 4.9, riding at 24 meters. So that's going to be something like maybe 15 minutes or so before they finish. I don't know. Put it this way, we are going to see if we home. Be Brill. That's what I try to do. 119th, be Brill. I try to be Brill. I don't get everything right, but I do my best, honestly. So these are all the best names at the back, aren't they? This is where you want to be. This is like the great names club, isn't it? Thunderbird, Brill, and Django. Wow, these are proper names. I quite like Furlong as well. The Slovenian, and Elliott. a traditional Anglo-Saxon sounding name, I would imagine, from the United States, of course. Third on there, one of our lady riders, Slovenian, just looking down onto the bars to go around that corner. I don't know if she's in real life, but her avatar's certainly doing that. And actually, it would be quite telling if your avatar really did mimic what your body was doing, wouldn't it? You know, you sort of kind of, you know, if you do have a drink of water, it sort of like your arm goes down and grabs a bottle off the tube, the down tube. Katja Furlan, Slovenian, is now into the final kilometre, and she is going to beat Van der Berg, Brill and Django. That sounds like, imagine if that was a law firm, that'd be great. You know, who do you use for your lawyers? Oh, Van der Berg, Brill and Django. Absolutely cracking names. Love them to bits. Just a reminder of the top 10. It seems ages ago now, isn't it? It's Matthias Nordqvist, who, after Henrik Maard's absolutely amazing storm off the front, he was just pipped by Matthias Nordqvist. Casper Hedenham getting second place. Casper just been online to say how hard that was. We've got to spare a thought for John Beams, who did the most amazing catch-up. After Eric Bukopper told us the film he would never get caught, John Beams did a solo and caught them. That was absolutely amazing and will be remembered for a long time. I've seen John ride a few times. He is a great rider, and I think he just adds to the legend every time I see him. So well done, John Beams. Commiserations on not getting any of those bonus points. No, bad news. Never mind, it's only a game. Really? Was it Bill Shankly, a football manager, who said some people think football is a game of life or death, but it's far more serious than that? And I think it was probably a bad taste comment, but we all got what he meant. Van der Berg and Tony Van der Berg is my favourite. I think I'm going to pick Van der Berg above Brill and Django as the cracking names that I like in this race. Wendy Wonder Wheels would be really, really good, except it's not her real name. It's I don't know if Van der Berg is a real name or not, but it sounds brilliant, doesn't it? It sounds like Thunderbirds. It's got all that sort of, you know, coolness of the space race and things like that. That you know, I suppose the coolness of the space race is probably something for an older generation, but you kind of, you know, it manifests itself in sci-fi throughout, and Star Trek is all part of that, and that's all been brought up to date and modernised, or futurised, should I say. So Tony Van der Berg, he's the man to look out for. He's our futurised rider. 300 metres for Tony. Get in there, OTR, yet another OTR jersey. I tell you what, James, you've got to start a business in these. They're everywhere. Replica shirts on sale via RGT shop, as worn by Tony Van der Berg. Now, we'd all buy one for that, wouldn't we? And then we've got Beat Brill coming in, 300 metres to go, just behind 300. It's about 400 metres for a Beat Brill to come in, Canadian. And then Django, Return of the Django is actually, unless you're a reggae fan, you're not going to get that one. Return of the Django was a very, very big record in its day, one of the early reggae sounds in the early days of reggae, and I've now got that tune running through my head. So Brian Brill and Brian Brill, I'm not going to enjoy your name quite as much because you're going to cross the finishing line before I get a good chance to do all my Brill jokes, which will probably have some of the people watching quite relieved. Well done, Brian. Fantastic stuff. Love it when people stick in and don't get put off by the fact that everybody else has shot up off the road. Again, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. It's going to be my race as well. And we await Return of the Django. And of course, most of you would think of Django perhaps with Django Reinhardt, the guitarist who had his fingers were misformed or something and had to learn to play the guitar in a completely different way to everybody else because his fingers couldn't push on frets, and developed a whole style and become one of the greatest guitarists of all time, ever. So Django's a great name, and great guitarist, and a great reggae record, and a great cyclist from Belgium we have here. Comac Django. is 2.3 kilometres away from home in resplendent yellow kit, which I suppose if you're going to be riding solo, it's not a bad idea because then all the car drivers can see you. That is complete and utter waffle because obviously we're on RGT and there are no car drivers. But what it does, I would suggest, it sets an example to wear bright, recognisable clothes when cycling. It sets a trend, I would say. Actually, if you put a bit of red in there, you could actually say that it was the Belgian colours, wouldn't it? Because you got the yellow and black, you haven't got the red. You need some red in there, Django. Comac, get some red in there. Make it look really Belgian. And remember, Belgium is the #1 country for cycling. So, as we watch Comac enjoy the scenery, knowing full well that nobody's going to catch him, remember, Tour du Monde is going to be here. We're here all week, as the best entertainers say. I won't personally be with you till next Wednesday on this one. I will be at the Echelon Community Racing race on Sunday, and I shall look forward to hosting the RGT community along with the excellent producer from ZMS, Damon Bates. We thank James Ogilvie and everybody from OTR, and there's a hell of a lot of you, for putting on this series. Fantastic, great stuff. Thank you everybody who's taken part in the racing. Thank you everybody who's endured listening to me for the last hour and a half. I've thoroughly enjoyed being here. Thank you very much for putting in your comments, and don't forget, all you have to do is do one of these stages and you can give Ian £100 prize draw. And remember the story, the lady, was it Helen Y, I think it was, James said, and she just pushed herself all through all the races and ended up winning the money without ever troubling the leaderboard in the series. So what a nice community gesture that was, and what a shame it wasn't £105 because we let Derek off his £5 wager that the front three wouldn't get caught. I don't think Derek deserves to part with his money, but he called it right, really, didn't he? In principle, a technicality might have arguably proved him wrong, but in spirit, he was absolutely right. So well called, Derek. As I say, thanks, James. Thanks, Christophe Contant, and everybody else who's contributed tonight. There's been plenty of you putting your comments up, which we like, and thank you very much for being part of the party. As I say, Tour du Monde back tomorrow, and remember there are different races for different time zones here, so you know, it's all about time over the series. You can actually go and race at different times and of course get a good time, and poor old James has to put all that together, and we'll have the standings for you later. We don't envy him. I hope there's a nice strong drink to go with the spreadsheets you're no doubt pouring over, James, and hope your evening is as enjoyable as the rest of us are going to have. I should imagine all these riders are probably sort of going to soak in a hot bath worrying about tomorrow's stage. It's flat tomorrow, you'll be fine, guys and girls. Only 200 metres now for Comac, Django. So I just want to go. I should have got my I should have got Returning Django on my phone and played it, shouldn't I? Damon would be absolutely screaming at me if I did that. Oh, no, you can't. We'll have to pay royalties. You don't have to pay royalties. We're not going to play it. We're going to watch Comac Django wrap it all up for this evening and say thank you very much for being with us. As everybody applauds Comac over the line, that is about that. Thanks a lot, Damon. Thanks, James. Thanks, everybody who's been part of this, whether you're riding, listening, watching, or whatever. And don't forget, Tour du Monde is back tomorrow for a flatter stage, but no less challenging. See you soon. Bye-bye.